Hi, I'm Jen. This is the Knits and Giggles podcast, and I'm coming to you from the southeast of England. I am a knitter and crafter and reader and lots of other things, sharer of all of those adventures. So let's talk about my finished objects, my whips, and what I'm wearing. So I'm wearing the Campsite Waffle cardigan by Alexandra Tavel. I knit this a couple of years ago. I think I might struggle to show it to you because it's so long, but it's a really lovely, really cushy, big, massive cardigan. I did knit it in, I think it was polyamide and wool. So it's the Tawny Country Life Aran. So where I used to live used to have an indoor market, and there was a stall in there that would sell pretty much discontinued stuff. None of it was natural fibres, but it was all extraordinarily cheap. So my nan always told me to buy wool with at least 20% wool in it, or yarn with 20% wool in it. And so that was what I went with when I bought it, when I didn't know any better. This is a colourway 155, but because of the nature of the stall itself, I don't know how you would get hold of this. I haven't googled it to find out, but it's a really lovely cardigan. I knit the medium size, which is a 53-inch bust, so you can tell it's very oversized, and it's got these really nice pockets that go in completely seamlessly. It knit up really fast. It's Aran weight, and I think it was like 5mm needles or 5.5mm needles. I remember knitting it within about a month and being really shocked that I could knit an oversized garment that quickly. So that's what I'm wearing. I've got 3 finished objects today. So the first one, sorry, I've got wool up my nose. The first one is the Pearl Jacket by Helene Beba. I was working on this last time I spoke to you. She's all done and she's so beautiful. Look at her. So this is made in Wool Warehouse's own brand, Yarnsmith Mohair silk, and just do a twirl. What's it called? Kid Mohair silk. Sorry, everybody's got the words different ways round, so I had to check my notes. And they're merino DK. It is incredibly soft. I knit the large, which gave me 10%, 10 inches. It'd be really helpful if I could talk. 10 inches positive ease. I made a couple of adjustments. So I knit the body 1 inch shorter. So if I go on tiptoes, I wanted it just to touch where my high-waisted jeans would come in. And on the hem, I did 10 rows of ribbing rather than, I think it was 22 were meant to be on there. So yeah, when I say I knit the body 1 centimetre shorter, I mean where you would then start the hem is when I stopped 1 centimetre shorter, and then obviously I made it even shorter still by doing 10 rows of the ribbing rather than the recommended 22. I did do the 22 on the sleeves, so it's just a really subtle difference between the kind of waffle stitch broken rib, I think, and then that. And I think last time I told you I was a little bit confused about how to do the Italian bind off on it. So my plan had been to place the body stitches on a holder, because obviously there's so many of them, and instead I was going to knit down one of the sleeves, and I was then going to practice the Italian bind off on this. I googled it and I managed to find, I can't remember her name, but I will put it in the notes. I managed to find a Instagrammer, I don't know whether she has her own podcast or anything, who spoke about it so plainly. So when you read the steps for an Italian bind off, and I don't think this particular pattern had steps in it, I think it was just like do an Italian bind off. There's always like 4 or more steps involved, and it just kind of made my brain go so I was like, I've got to find a way to memorize it. I've got to find a way to make this really easy to assimilate into my brain. And this particular person on Instagram said just the most ingenious thing. She said, think about the knits go with the knits and the pearls go with the pearls. It's a very gay stitch that way, a gay bind off. And that just stuck. That just absolutely lodged itself in my brain. So what I ended up doing was kind of constantly working two. So I can't remember exactly which way you do it, but however you go in or out or in or out, you're kind of always skipping the next stitch. So say you started with a knit stitch, you wouldn't go into the purl stitch, you would go into the knit stitch after the purl stitch. But yeah, I found it super intuitive from that moment on. I'm really chuffed. I think it is kind of harder to see because of the mohair, but I am really chuffed with how it looks. And I managed to get some buttons from a haberdashery. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to keep the buttons. I didn't have the cardigan or the wool with me when I bought them, and we don't really have any places nearby. I kind of live in the middle of nowhere, and it was one of those moments of like, I don't know when I'm going to get to a haberdashery again. I'm just going to order the buttons. So yeah, I have no idea what brand they are or anything like that. It was from Franklin's in Chelmsford. So I don't know if you can order online with them or anything, but yeah, that's the Pearl Jacket by Helene Beba. It was a really, really lovely knit, and I thoroughly recommend this yarn. It is so incredibly soft. Although twice now I've been in my kitchen and reached over the hob and it singed the mohair, and I haven't felt like I've been anywhere near it. Because I have a gas hob is what I should add to that. But yeah, so yeah, very, very, very happy with that one. Definitely, I've never had a green cardigan, so it fills a hole in my wardrobe, and I was very, very aware that I wanted some shorter length cardigans. All of my cardigans go at least to my bum, and I think now that I'm wearing more high-waisted jeans, it can just look a little bit frumpy. It's just not the silhouette I fancy having. So yeah, that filled one hole in the wardrobe. And then my next finished object, which is a lint magnet, is the Be Thankful cardigan by Lily Kate France. Again, it's a cropped cardigan. This is all random stuff that it's picked up in my home. Please excuse the mess on my cardigan. It's a really nice cropped cardigan. It's bottom up. Oh, I should say the pearl cardigan was top down. So just a very nice, again, sits right on my waistband. Looks really nice when it's done up. I didn't do the sleeves the way she does them. I did great big balloon sleeves, which I love, and I did them super duper long because that's what I like best. The way the sleeves are constructed in the pattern is it's a very, very sharp corner, which, you know, if that's the design element you want to go for, perfect. It's really unusual, and it just didn't vibe with me. So yeah, I think I just got to here and then did a round of knit 2 togethers and then 1 round of plain stitches in the smaller needle for the hem, and then yeah. There was another mod that I made. So the picking up the button band was meant to be 2 in every 3 stitches, which is 66% of the stitches picked up for the button band. Sorry, I'm just putting my great big cushy cardi back on. So it should have been 66% pickup rate, but actually it just pulled everything up, and because it's already a cropped cardigan, it just kind of looked really odd and really cinched in. It just felt like yeah, it was too much. It was just too much. It was too short. It just pulled it too short. So instead I did 3 in every 4, which is a 75% pickup rate, and that really worked. I didn't block it with pins, but when I blocked it, I really smoothed it out as best I could, because obviously, you know, rib's going to make it cinch anyway. But yeah, it was very much, yeah, badly cinched in. And then the only other thing I did, which isn't really a modification, but you knit it bottom up, so you've got all of those body stitches here on the needles, and then I think you do the back, then the left, then the front, or whichever way it goes. It's the back first, and then when you finish the back, it says to put like this side on hold, bind off the middle, and then put the other side on hold. But then you have to pick up the middle stitches again when you start to pick up for the button band. So instead I just left them on a, you know, when you buy like a needle set, you get the cord that's about that long and you're like, when am I ever going to use that? I just put it on there, and held the stitches on there until I was ready for it. And then in the back you can see, sorry it's heavy, you can see the little row there where I've picked up stitches, and then just across the back it just doesn't exist. I just knit straight across the ones that were there. So yeah, I think that was the only mods I did, wasn't it? Yeah. It's Knitting Drops Nepal. It's 100% wool, in their black colour. It's just pure black colour. So yeah, very pleased with that one as well. That was a re-knit because I knit that last year, and I decided that I couldn't be bothered to wrap it up in a towel after I soaked it and tread on it a bit, and instead I put it in the washing machine after I had soaked it and put it on a spin cycle, and I shrunk it. So yeah. The last thing that I have finished, that I haven't woven in the end yet, but it has been used multiple times, is hot water bottle cover. So this, I'm going to butcher the name because I don't know how to say Scandi names. It's by Anna Sjosvard. Sjosvard. It's called the EIR Hot Water Bottle, so EIR. I'll try and put all of this down the bottom. That's my goal for today, is to figure out how to put all this by the bottom. I've knit it in leftover Lion Brand fisherman wool that I had from other projects. I knit it exactly to pattern and I absolutely love it. I am not massively into this bit. I think if I knitted it again, I might just do these 3 kind of motifs, or just these. I'm not sure that these really stand out as well, but it might look better after I've blocked it, I don't know. But yeah, I've wanted a hot water bottle cover for a very long time. I kept putting it off, and then one day I just pulled my finger out and did it. So yeah, absolutely love it. Couldn't be more thrilled with it. My tension on the edges is a baggier because I knit it in the round on magic loop, so that's where the wire, the cable from the knitting needle was coming out. But yeah, really happy. Think it would make a great gift for somebody. Like, it's just so cozy, and I really like the neutral colours. I really love it. So yeah, so that's my finished objects. I'm very happy with all of them. I wouldn't change a single thing, so long may that continue. In terms of whips, the last time I spoke to you, I was having problem with gauge on the Atlantis set I'd cast on for the trousers. It's like a loungewear set, and my stitches were just all over the place, and it's just not something that I ever come up against. I don't want to sound cocky or anything like that, but I just never come up against it. I just don't. And it really caught me off guard. And after I spoke to you guys, I went onto the Ravelry yarn page for the drops Puna that I was using. And there were a lot of complaints about the thickness of the yarn varying between colourways. And so the Atlantis set is knit in drops Puna. I was using exactly the same yarn. So that was also what kind of caught me off guard, was that I substitute yarn all the time and I never have any problems with it. Or I guess, you know, if I did, like, I haven't told you the sizes I knit. This was a size large and it's a 53-inch bust. That's what the pattern says. I haven't measured to see whether it's a 53-inch bust. It's just that I put it on and I loved it. So I think it might also be that the finished objects are just how I pictured them being, so I'm perfectly happy with that. I think so. Sorry, let me just catch you back up. Oh, I don't remember what sizes I knit them in. I'll put it below. So yeah, so I was really caught off guard by how ununiform those stitches were. And it wasn't like the yarn was like thick and thin. It was just rubbish. And I hadn't gone up a needle size from the ribbing to the legs of the trousers. So I was really stumped. And so I knit a swatch and I soaked it and I blocked it and nothing changed. And I was like, yeah, no. So I've ripped it out. I've sold the yarn on eBay because at that point it was just bad juju. And I couldn't imagine what I would use it for, because at that point, I don't know what weight it is. I've been knitting for like maybe 15, maybe 20 years. And I don't know what makes a certain weight yarn. I buy it and I expect it to be what it says it is. So if you say it's DK weight, I'm going to believe you. But then I don't know whether that slunk it back to sport or slunk it back to 4-ply. So I sold the yarn on eBay. When I was in Franklin's buying those buttons for my pearl jacket, I clocked this yarn that I was originally going to buy for it. So I was really going to splurge and I was going to get something with a bit of cashmere in it. But when I went to buy it and I added it all to my cart, I was like, so I had kind of gone, all right, let's go with drops Puna then, because I use a lot of drops yarn. I really like it. I get on well with it. It knits up beautifully. But actually, do you know what? I think I am gonna splurge at some point. Maybe as a treat when I get my new job. I don't know. But yeah, the Atlantis set is definitely still on my to-do list. It's in my Ravelry queue. But yeah, no, not with drops Puna, and I don't think I will ever purchase that yarn again. I can't, just need it to do what it says on the tin. The other thing I spoke to you guys about last time was the Rory Gilmore sweater, and realising that I had somehow ballsed up the cables on one side. I don't have a knitting group. I don't really have knitting friends. I have an aunt-in-law who knits, so I sent it to her and was like, what have I done? I can't read my knitting, because I was counting the stitches and I had the right amount of stitches and she couldn't figure out what it was. And then my aunt works in a library and there's a knitting group that goes there So I sent it to my aunt and was like, if you don't know, would you mind asking the knitting group? Because I want to know what it is, to see, you know, how to not do it again. More than anything, I just don't want to do it again. So they reckoned I had knit an additional stitch. I can't visualise how I had done that, but I'm not disputing it either. So I haven't ripped it out. What I am going to do is try to get an embroidery needle and maybe pull it a little bit back, because the problem is that it's pushing out a little bit and it's kind of almost embossed, and actually what I need is for it to be further back behind. So I'm going to see whether I can do a bit of jiggery pokery with a bit of the wool and a darning needle or an embroidery needle, and see whether I can force it into a backwards position. If not, I think I will rip it out, because it will just bother me, and I am too far down my knitting journey to be conscious of what I'm wearing. Like, you know, you don't knit something and then stop knitting. You knit something and then you cast on your next project. And for me, what's the difference? If it's going to make you happier to have the project on completed to the standard you want it completed to, then you may as well rip it back and start again, because you were going to be knitting on something anyway. So yeah, I'm going to play about with pulling the stitch back a little bit and see whether I can manually manipulate it into sitting the way the rest of the cables on that panel on the side are sitting. If I can't, I'll rip it back, and what I'll do instead is start knitting on the sleeve and see whether I can catch myself. So I have knit a tiny bit extra on it, enough to do another couple of those cables, and the mistake hasn't repeated itself. So I'm at a bit of a loss as to what I did, or because it's not as if I can go, oh yeah, I was watching the F1 then and it got a bit tense and I took my eyes off my knitting or something. Like, I don't know what it was. So yeah, anyway, I have a plan. I haven't enacted it yet, but either way I will work on it. I don't know for how much longer, because we're now in spring in England, and I wouldn't say it's warm by any stretch, because I'm wearing an Aran weight cardigan, and even with the short sleeves of my t-shirt, I'm a little bit nippy. My hands are cold, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to want to sit with Aran weight projects on my lap. It would still be a great jumper for, you know, when you go to a barbecue and the weather gets chillier as the sun goes down and stuff like that. So I can actually see myself wearing it all through the year, not consecutive days, but you know what I mean. You do get chillier days. Like, I never pack away my winter clothes because I run cold. So I'm one of those terrible people at a barbecue. It's like, can I borrow a hoodie? Thank you. So yeah, I do want it done. I would love to be wearing it, but I don't want to compromise. I want it to look beautiful. So the whips that I'm working on are all new cast-ons. I haven't shown you any of these. They were all cast on since I last spoke to you. The first one, I don't know how to say the designer's name. So it is the Hyun. One side of my family is Welsh, and I feel very drawn to saying Hyun. Hyun, Hyun, so maybe it's more Japanesey or something. By aegyoknit, Aegyo knit, who is Caroline Sjosvard Benson. Oh, let me just get my knitting bag. Have I shown you this? I must have shown you this. This is my H&M half price nappy bag that I absolutely love, because you can just carry around loads of stuff in it. I've had an accident with a lawnmower, so I'm currently recovering and not able to get around very much. So it's very useful for me if I'm moving between the sofa or knitting outside in the garden to be able to plonk everything in an easily carried bag, or a filthy bag. That's my dog coming in from the garden with muddy paws. and yeah, and just be able to grab it while I'm still holding a crutch in the other hand. I won't go into that in case you're squeamish. So I'm going to go with my Welshie side. The Hyun Sweater is, I'm knitting a lot of drop shoulder sweaters. The 2 finished objects are drop shoulders. This is also a drop shoulder. I think, yeah, my other 2 sweaters that I'm working on are drop shoulder as well. So let me just sort out the needles. So it's top down. This is the back panel. And it is 3x1 rib the whole way down. It's knit in Rowan Valley Tweed in the colourway Malum. I bought this 10 years ago in a charity shop near, like, not even near me, like it was like a half an hour drive away from where we live. But I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I was like, oh! So I've had this in the stash for a very, very long time. I knit a pair of socks because it was in a bundle. It was this and it was a darker shade. And I knit a pair of socks in them, which my toes bust through on holiday. So not good for that. But it's in a place where I could pull the toe back and re-knit it. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to re-knit it with Mohair, because I heard on the Woolly Mammoths podcast that it can strengthen non-sock wool for socks. So hopefully that'll work. I haven't worn it like hiking or anything like that. I just wear them around the house a lot, but once they were washed, they were so soft. So I went online to try and find more of this, and I actually think it's been discontinued. I got one more sweaters quantity at half price off of a really random website that I'd never heard of before. I was a little bit concerned that it might be dodgy, but it wasn't. So yeah, I don't know whether you can get this anywhere, but you might be able to get it on a D-stash on Ravelry, or, you know, like I said, when I sold the Puna, I sold it on eBay, so you might find it on there maybe. But it is a really lovely yarn, and I'm holding it double with Drops Kid Silk Mohair. So this is their light lavender colourway, this is the Malum, but together the purple doesn't really show through, which I really like. It just kind of gives it this sort of soft kind of warmth. I feel like it warms up. This looks so cool in terms of shade, and this is, yeah, I don't know. I always think Mohair makes everything look a little bit more romantic. But yeah, so I'm knitting it up with these. The noise of the needles you can hear is where I've just picked up one side, which was not easy. I don't mind picking up stitches at all, but picking them up in pattern was not easy. So you pick it up with the right side facing you, which is the 3x1 rib, and I ended up actually kind of holding it like that so that I could see the knit stitches that I was trying to get into, because I find purl stitches harder to read than knit stitches. But I think I've done an okay job. But yeah, the next thing is so that's the left hand side, to shoot down there, pick up the right hand side. Oh, I should probably put it the other way so you can see it the right side round, and then get it to the point where it's knit in the round, at which point the pattern actually has you invert your knitting, turn it inside out, so you're then knitting more knit stitches than purl stitches. So if you're not a purl fan, but you like how the pattern and the texture knits up, the designer gets it. And she says, okay, that's fine, we can reverse it. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. It's an oversized, really nice pattern, and yeah, it's just very soft and very lovely, and it's just a little bit more than a stockinette project. I've been watching podcasts recently from Tall Tale Knits and Woolly Mammoth, and it's helping me to reframe more challenging projects. I think when I was working, particularly in my last job, it was a lot of learning on the job. It was high pressure. Oh, my stomach's grumbling, sorry. there was a thing around working to pace, and that's absolutely fine. It doesn't bother me at all. Like, I'm absolutely up for all of that. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really proud of, you know, everything that I accomplished in that role, but it doesn't leave you much headspace. And what I would end up doing is just knitting socks that I didn't even really want in my wardrobe, or, you know, stocking at projects, when actually stuff like this sort of texture is really appealing to me. So Woolly Mammoth and Tall Tale Knits have been talking about like how they also find that they can lose themselves in something like this, or, you know, sometimes in cables or sometimes in colour work. And if I'm honest, that's why I started the hot water bottle cover, because I was like, oh, actually, yeah, let's give a smaller colour work project a go. So yeah, I'm trying to shift my mindset into, do you know what, it doesn't have to be challenging. It can also be something that you lose yourself in after a hard day. But as of yet, I don't have my next job lined up, so I will let you know whether that continues once I'm using my brain 5 days a week to deliver to deadlines and stakeholders and so yeah, that's the Hyun Sweater by aegyoknit. I don't think I had anything else to say. I'm knitting size 1. It's not a very size inclusive pattern. There are only 2 sizes. I very rarely knit size 1. I'm a 37-inch bust. Until very recently I was a 39-inch bust, which I can fluctuate between. So typically I knit a medium or a large, but it's so oversized that the Positive Ease is going to cover that. I don't need to knit the bigger size. So yeah, I'm really sorry if you fancy knitting it and there aren't the size ranges available to you. I don't want to sound pushy, but I would message the designer if you're really into it. I've seen on a lot of designers' pages, it says, there was one in particular who I can't remember the name of, but it says at the bottom, if you read the description, what is that? I'm so fluffy today, honestly. It says at the bottom, if you are a larger size and your size isn't captured in this pattern, it's because I couldn't get test knitters for it. Please get in touch and I will send you the pattern. So I think it is worth an ask, and I get that that might feel awkward or a bit confrontational, but I was really kind of heart soothed when I read that. I was like, okay, there is a massive awareness now. But I guess, you know, not all patterns appeal to all people or all sizes of people. So I also respect the idea that actually they want to publish a pattern that has been tested and tech edited and they know it's going to work. And yeah, you might take a little bit of a pump, but at that point you've got the designer in your back pocket to talk to about it. So yeah, I would definitely ask about that. My next cast on, this is a bag I made a little while ago, not particularly well. Why would I have used blue and red thread? Who knows? It's a pair of socks, toe up. I'm not really using a pattern. I found a pattern like last year sometime, and the numbers were slightly off on the heel, so I kind of had to adjust it. So I'm not comfortable saying what the pattern is, but the notes are all on my Ravelry page. My Ravelry name is Frenny, Renny, which is the name of my cat merged. This is knit in Truly Hooked Sparkle Sock, which I brought at the Waltham Abbey Wool Show years and years ago. And it's her sparkly base. It's really nice. It is grey, but it's also got some little pops of white in there as well. I cast these on because we've just been to the Lake District for a week, which is about a 5.5 hour drive from us. So I desperately wanted a car knitting project, and I finished one while we were on holiday. So yeah, toe up. I don't know what this heel is called, but it's all in one. It wasn't an afterthought. And then I haven't blocked it yet, so that looks shocking. But I added a sporty athletic sock kind of stripe with some leftover, just random sparkly cream wool. So yeah, I divided the sock yarn into two because I like to knit my leg as long as possible, because I have a back problem that causes me to have cold and painful ankles when they're not warm. So yeah, I like to have as much fabric around my ankle as humanly possible. I'm calling these my Twinkle Toes Socks because our dog sleeps under our bed and just his little toes poke out, so we call him Twinkle Toes. The next work in progress is the Fairy Tale Sweater by Neringa Ruke. And it is again knitting Yarn Smith's Merino DK, and their, which way round do they say it, Kid Mohair silk. This is in warm taupe. Again, it's a drop shoulder. It's a really kind of romantic pink kind of colour. I really like it. It's the same makeup as the pearl jacket, so it's just as soft, just as lovely. I was worried this was going to leak colour when I blocked it, because it was the dye was actually leaching out onto my hands as I was knitting it, but it didn't. I haven't had any loss of colour whatsoever, so fully recommend this yarn. So yeah, top down drop shoulder. You start in the back, you do some short rows. The pattern is incorrect, so I'm knitting size small, and if you've done short rows before, what happens is initially it'll be like knit across X amount of stitches, turn, purl back, and then subsequent rows are like knit 3 past the last turn, or knit 5 past the last turn, or whatever it is. That initial knit across X amount of stitches before you turn was wrong, and it gave me 4 random stitches on one end and none on the other when I'd finished all of the wrap and turns. And I double checked all the maths and everything like that, and it was just wrong. So I've put it on my notes on my Ravelry page, but yeah, I'm not massively, I really want this made. I'm really excited to wear it. I'm not massively impressed with the pattern writing. I think if you were a beginner knitter, it's not very well laid out. And I also think just because you're an experienced knitter doesn't mean that I should have to do so much thinking around it. Like, there's a lot of next row, and then it'll say from next row repeat X amount of times, or but the previous section had next row written in it and stuff like that. So it's not that everything is wrong. It's not that, you know, that 1-2 stitches too many on one side goes all the way through the pattern and the whole pattern is rubbish. But number the rows and header the sections. So like to me a really good knitting pattern says back, cast on X, knit across 50, turn, knit back 30, turn, and you go like that and you go like that, and then that section stops and it goes left front, pick up stitches for the left front, do your wrap and turns, or you know, your double stitches or whatever it is, put your stitches on hold, end of section, right front, blah blah blah, end of section, join left, and you know, like it's so much easier to read. That reminds me of like a tank, do you know what I mean? Like you can have that kind of paced movement through it, and it also means that you haven't got to be crossing through what you've done. And so yeah, it wouldn't necessarily put me off of knitting any more of her patterns if I saw something that I really liked, but I just feel like the format is not done to the best of its ability. I think that it could be made to be much easier to read. It could be made much easier to track where you're at, and numbering rows would lessen the room for human error. Yeah. It's not the end of the world. I just think, you know, experienced or beginner, you deserve to have a well formatted pattern, and I don't think that's where I should be spending my mental energy, is trying to read and situate myself in a pattern. I feel like, yeah, just should be a bit easier. There just should be an ease in doing stuff like this. Like, it's a stockinette project. It should be really easy to read and figure out where you are. And yeah, I just wouldn't recommend it to beginners unless you've got a lot of time to sit very, very quietly and kind of do it. And, you know, maybe next time if I knit her patterns, then I would number the rows myself or print it off and work through it that way, and maybe kind of format it the way I want. I don't think that's picky. You might think it's picky. Tell me if I'm being picky. So yeah, I'm very happy with this. It's going to have a folded over collar, and then when you get down to the bottom, you work the front and back separately, then you fold that up, and then there's going to be ties that come out underneath it to cinch it in at the bottom, so it'll be lovely and oversized and then cinched in at the base, at which point I'm going to have to do like 2 massive I cords, so I don't know how I'm going to wrap my head around that. But yeah, it might be that I just bind this off and wear it as it is. I think I'm gonna see how it is when I finish it, because I'm not actually sure that I fancy doing 2 massive long I cords. I think they're like 90 centimeters each. Anyway, that's that one. That's knit in the Yarn Smiths Merino DK and their Kid Mohair Silk in the number 2 warm taupe. So yeah. And then my final project, so when we went to the Lake District, I've always wanted to go, and I've always been really intrigued by how Beatrix Potter is kind of intertwined with all of that. So Beatrix Potter moved to the Lake District, and she bought Hilltop Farm, and she was friends with the founder of the National Trust in England. So if you don't live in England or you don't know, the National Trust looks after a number of different properties, and they will look after like wooded areas and stuff like that. And they conserve and preserve those areas as areas of beauty or history, or it's a really, really beautiful idea to, especially in the time of Beatrix Potter, there was a lot of it like industry and development and stuff like that. So she moved to the Lake District. She was a really, really big champion for that area. She bought up a number of different farms. I think there were 15 in total. And she would restore them, and she would ensure that a certain flock of sheep were on them, indigenous to the Lake District. And within each of those homes that she restored, she would ensure that there was at least one piece of handcrafted, made in the Lake District furniture. And when she died, she left all of those farms to the National Trust with the stipulation that they all had to have those specific sheep breeds on them, and that they all had to be preserved and conserved to maintain the area of beauty. Like the Lake District is insane. We drove around a lot of it. We fit so much in, and the landscape is just breathtaking, and it changes and it's incredible. It's just beautiful. I thoroughly recommend going. If you're a walker, it's amazing. If you're a hiker, it's probably even better because there's mountains and things. But the breed of sheep that she really championed is Herdwick wool. So there is a brand called Herdy that you might have seen, with like lovely sheepy little faces that they put onto mugs and coasters and stuff like that. I knew that I really wanted Herdwick wool, and I knew that it's a coarse woolly wool. It smells so good. So we, instead of going to just like a souvenir shop or something, we drove to the farm in Patterdale and we bought Crookerbeck Herdwick wool. I bought enough for a sweater's quantity. I say me, my other half ended up treating me, so thank you very much. It's very, very toothy. It's got a lot of bits poking out. I don't know what they are. I'm not a shepherdess. But Beatrix Potter was renowned for these sheep, and she was considered an authority on it. She won many, many, many agricultural shows across Cumbria with her sheep, and she was even appointed as like the head of the Herdwick Sheep Society just before she died. So yeah, I love the heritage of it. I met the lady who is the shepherdess. Yeah, it's non-dyed. This is how it looks when it's on the sheep. They're born black, but they get lighter, and then when they have their first shearing they get lighter still. So this is the dark colour, but you can also get a lighter colour as well. So you can order this off of her website if you wanted to. It's Crookerbeck Herdwick wool, and it's crookerbeck.co.uk. So yeah, it's worsted spun, 100 grams, 220 metres, and I am knitting the Earth Pullover by Ozetta. So last time I finished the Winter's Pullover by Ozetta. I didn't necessarily look for another Ozetta pattern. I looked for DK top down because I wasn't entirely sure how much wool I had, so there's a little bit more control with top down. As I said, I like long sleeves, so I wanted to be able to double check that I could keep going on the length that I wanted and stuff. So it's another top down jumper, drop shoulder. Try and get it into so yeah, I think it's 4.5mm needles. I am knitting the 4th size, I think. It's going to have some positive ease to it. Again, it's going to have that folded brim collar to it. And yeah, so same as with the other drop shoulders, you cast on for the back, you do wrap and turns, German short rows, and then you knit it to the armhole. So I'm not too much further past the armhole, to be honest. And then you do the left and the right, and then you join it in the round. And yeah, that's what I'll be doing for the foreseeable future, is just knitting in the round. I would be lying to you if I said it wasn't a coarse fibre. I don't find it rough or itchy or scratchy. My other half, who was allergic to wool, was like, "Hoo!" So it's a massive no for anyone who is funny about wool, or sensitive to wool, I should say. I just think it's going to be like an absolute workhorse jumper. I can kind of see myself out in the garden in it. Like, yeah, I'm really excited. And it's not a roll neck or anything like that. It will sit like a crew neck, like this t-shirt. So I'll be able, if it is a bit itchy, then I can wear a long sleeve t-shirt under it or whatever. But I don't think I'm going to be that sensitive to it. But yeah, we saw the Herdwicks all over the place. They are just the most beautiful animals. They forage for their own food. So one of the really great things about them is that you can breed them unassisted. They look after themselves. They live on the fells, not within farms. So there were a couple of places we went to, Ayr Falls in particular, where we walked past 3 of them just hanging out together, and it was really lovely. So yeah, really excited about that. Had the most incredible time in the Lake District. I just, yeah, so many waterfalls and so many lakes, obviously. Lakes and fells, and just so many wonderful, lovely people as well. The amount of people, we've got a brown and white collie, and we don't tend to see other brown and white collies, and people quite often challenge us and say, "You sure it's not an Australian Shepherd?" And we're like, no, that's a border collie. But we bumped into so many brown and white collies, and their owners all wanted to talk to us, and yeah, really lovely. We went to Buttermere and bumped into a woman walking her mild collie, and we spoke to her for like 45 minutes, and she was saying to us, like, what's your next plan? When are you heading home? So to break up the journey, obviously with the dog in the car, we need to kind of, ensure that he's well walked and that he can have toilet breaks and stuff like that. And I had said to my husband, I was like, I really, really, for the longest time, have wanted to go to the Bronte parsonage. I love the Brontes. I don't read a lot of classic literature. I used to a lot more a few years ago. But Jane Eyre is one of my all-time favourite books. I've read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I've read Wuthering Heights. I've got Vile on the go. I've got The Professor on standby. I think I own everything they publish, which isn't a lot. But yeah, I was like, I'd watched BBC made a film about them called To Walk Invisible 10 years ago, actually, because I watched it when we got back. It's on BBC iPlayer if you want to watch it. And I was just like, I would really love to go to Haworth and go to the Bronte parsonage, like so bad. So we told this lovely lady Pippa that, that was how we were going to break up the journey home. And she was saying that she'd been a history teacher and she worked in Keswick Museum, and she said, no way, my friend Fran works at the Bronte parsonage. She was like, you should say hello to her. And we were like, okay, sure. And she was like, I'll let her know you're coming. And I was like, okay. So Charlie, our dog, wasn't allowed in the Bronte parsonage. So Dee went off with Charlie for a bit while I went in. And it was just incredible. It was just incredible. Like, I stood in the room where all those books were written, and there was a sign saying that the girls would pace around the room brainstorming different ideas with each other and different storylines, and it just felt charged with creative, supportive, loving energy. It was just like even now I'm getting kind of like emotional about it. It was just like, I cannot believe this is the room where one of my all-time favourite books was written. I've never had that opportunity before to be able to do anything like that. So I was like, oh my God. And we did want to go to Beatrix Potter's house, but we ran out of time. But yeah, so I went all around this parsonage, and you go into a few different rooms. I think there's 3 rooms downstairs and 2-3 rooms upstairs. And then you walk through one of the rooms into like an exhibition bit. So and in each of the rooms there's kind of glass cabinets with things on display and little notes about, where they wrote Jane Eyre and all of that. And all the while I was looking for this Fran woman, and Pippa had said she only works a couple of days a week, so you may not catch her. I was like, okay, fine. And at one point I saw a woman. I was like, you look like a Fran. And I had walked into one of the bedrooms. She was stood at the top of the stairs, and when I came back out, it was a different person. So I was like, damn, okay. And then I went through this exhibition bit, which was brilliant. They had the little storybooks that Anne, Emily, Charlotte and Branwell had written for their Branwell's soldiers, toy soldiers, when they were little. They're like this big, and there's like a magnifying glass on it, and they wrote it in tiny handwriting with like ink and a quill, and that was how all 4 of them got into story writing. So it's just magical. It's just so magical. And especially, in the 1800s, where women weren't expected to be financially independent, and their father was the parson, obviously, that's why they lived in the parsonage. It so easily could have been quashed out of them, and instead they were raised in this incredibly supportive, of course you go be creative. What else would you do? Like, and there were governesses as well and stuff like that, but before they published. But it was just wonderful to see how that had always been encouraged and never shut down. It was like, oh. So I came out of the exhibition and you walk straight into the gift shop, and I treated myself to a book of Emily's poems, and the girls were also really good at art. So I bought postcards of the pictures they did of their dogs, and I was like, I've got to start doing pictures of Charlie. I've sculpted Charlie. I went to a sculpt your own pet thing a while ago. Maybe I'll show you one day. I was like, oh, and I've done like lino cutting for Christmas cards, and Charlie's been like the figurehead of my lino cut for the Christmas cards. So yeah, I treated myself to a couple little bits, and when I came out, Dee and Charlie, my husband Dee, was stood there, and he went, have you been in yet? I was like, I'm done. He was like, oh my god, okay, we've only just got here. We were just talking to those people with that brown collie over there. And I said, do you want to see it? Because the dog is allowed in their front garden. And the Bronte Parsonage house is just beautiful. It's really beautiful. And so Dee and I walked on into the front garden, and Charlie immediately found a stick on the floor, and the front door of the parsonage opened, and two women came out, and they were talking about Charlie and asking if they could like stroke him and stuff. We were like, yeah, of course. And this one woman went, my friend's got a collie. And I went, are you Fran? She was like, yes. I was like, oh my god, we're the ones who spoke to Pippa the other day. She's like, she rang me, she said you were coming, have you had a good time? And I was just like, just makes me go tingly all over. That kind of kindness, like, and that genuineness. Like, she didn't need to tell us that her friend weren't there. She didn't need to tell us to go and seek her out. She didn't need to tell the friend that we would be there. You know, just like, so lovely. People up there are just so lovely. So yeah, we had just the most amazing time. We were out walking every single day in the Lake District, regardless of the weather, apart from one day when it was so torrential that we called it a couple of hours early, and we're like, we should just go and hunker down. I think we should just go and hunker down. So yeah, absolutely can't wait to go back. Want to train myself up so that I can climb the mountains up there. And yeah, we did a little bit of cat bells, but we didn't think Charlie could manage the scramble, so we pulled back on that and didn't finish it. But it was beautiful, and the views over Derwent Water were just incredible. So yeah, had the most amazing week away, and then came home and had a fight with a lawnmower, and have been resting my foot ever since. So hence why I've got quite a lot of knitting done. I've got ants in my knitting pants. I've been casting on too much, so at the moment I've got 5 jumpers and 1 cardigan on the needles, 2 shawls and a pair of socks. So I definitely want to get some stuff off the needles. It's getting to the point of overwhelm. It's not actually very nice for me personally to have that much on the go. But I do like having that switch between plain stocking it and then a bit of texture or a cable project. So I always want an assortment of different types of projects on the needles. I just think that that's a bit too many. But things like the Crookerbeck yarn, I just couldn't wait to cast on. I just love it so much. And I really love that we saw the sheep. There were some that were just grazing around Cathedral Cave, and we took just lovely photos of them. I'm gonna maybe, I really want to do a lino cut of them, and I might think about maybe putting them in an Etsy shop as well, because I figure, you know, once you've cut a lino cut, you've got that there all the time. So I could just, you know, if anyone did want it, I could just print it as required, kind of made to order thing. But yeah, if I ever stop knitting and if I ever stop casting on new things. So yeah, let me know if you've got any other great podcast recommendations. I am in the backlog of Woolly Mammoth at the moment. I fancy something soft and gentle, and I find her really inspiring. I really love all the sourdough baking, and she's got me really fired up for gardening this year. I sowed some seeds the other day and I've got more turning up. But yeah, anyway, it's been an hour. I think it's time to log off. I hope you're all doing well. I hope that your knitting is wonderful and fulfilling and you're getting lots out of it and it's growing and you're working on things that you're enjoying working on and can't wait to have in your wardrobe, or you can't wait to gift. I will see you next time. Bye guys.